All right, stream is connecting. Today's agenda, we are going to work on recording the intro lesson for Latterly. Introduction to the master plan. So thanks for joining. While we're connecting, let me just vent real quick about how broken Ethereum is right now. So I was trying to Uniswap. I'm a big fan of Invictus Capital right now. I like this Crypto 20 asset, and I like a bunch of their assets. I like the margin lending asset as well. But they're not like you can't just directly buy them over the counter in US. So Uniswap is one way to access those tokens. So I went over here to Uniswap, but then the gas fee to swap like $200. See, I want to swap LPT for C20, review swap. If MetaMask will work. What's up? What's up? Fetching quotes. Yeah, and the gas fee is like $150 to swap like $100 worth. It's ridiculous. So anyway, it's pretty broken. Okay, I think we're going. Looks like something's wrong with Facebook, but that's fine. LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch, we're all here. Cool. Thanks for joining. This is lesson 1 in Latterly's curriculum. Take a glance at the curriculum right here. This is understanding the master plan. This is an introductory section in the course, and the point of this is to quickly familiarize the student with what the course is all about so that you don't like go all the way through it only to realize that you didn't want to go through it. Whenever I'm giving a talk on anything, I think it's a good practice to tell the audience what you're going to tell them, and then summarize it at the end. So you end up repeating it 3 times. Repetition is good for learning. And it's similar in this curriculum. So this is the introduction section where I teach you what I'm going to teach you. Then we drill into all the bits in individual sections. For example, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, job skills. Those are sort of the main highlights. So those are all sort of like summarized up top, and then they have a dedicated section. And you okay? And specifically today, we'll cover why tech and why code. Let's see what else is in the slides. Introduction to the master plan, why tech and programming, why React, why a coaching program. Understanding community resources is already done. Let's see, trial by fire is done. Understanding post-hire care and development is not done. Why tech and why code, colleges, boot camps, self-teaching. Yeah, these two are not really perfectly aligned, are they? Okay, well, I'm actually going to stick to the slides today, and then I might end up changing the curriculum. So let's get started with the master plan. Here is the overall curriculum. There's the master plan. Basic tech skills will include things like Bash and Git. So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are basic for making web pages. React is more advanced but necessary in today's job market. I'll touch on some optional skills. You don't need to learn these, but they will make you look good, basically. If you learn a bunch of these, you can actually skip the junior level and go straight for intermediate. That would be things like accessibility, design principles, and so forth. Soft skills are really important. And then so soft skills would be things like teamwork and communication. And then the job search itself is its own skill set. In the open source curriculum, items 11 through 14 are not things to do with the actual course that you need to learn. These are just sort of like useful notes that are kind of tangentially related. So tech employer advice, like if you're trying to land a job, you don't need employer advice. But as someone who's developing a curriculum and I'm trying to integrate concerns of employers and students, I've stumbled onto a bunch of useful employer advice. And same with the others, and then a bit of humor, because who would make it through the day without a bit of humor? And that brings us to the master plan. If you're using these slides, you can click the left and right arrow, you can use your keyboard, and you can also click the link. They'll all take you to the same spot. Bro, what that name? What's up? What's up? I learned Python. Hey, congrats. Thanks for the follow. Thanks for the likes. So the first question is, why tech in programming? Here's an external link. Yep, if we click that, it'll open in a new tab. I'll summarize the highlights from that link, so that link is like the source, but these are the main points. By the way, by way of background, Clement is the founder of Algo Expert, which is a job readiness platform for big tech, where they teach you like complicated algorithms. I use it myself, and I recommend it. Clement has worked at big tech. He is, trained computer scientist and also a successful CEO and a technical CEO who has contributed to code. So these are basically his points, and I've kind of summarized them in my own words, and I also agree with his points. Number one, high compensation. One of the reasons to get into programming is for the high compensation. Simple as that. Two is work-life balance. In programming, particularly in good companies, not in all companies, but in a lot of companies, and particularly in big tech, there's prolific use of the Agile framework, which is like a business process. And under Agile, you're allocated work items periodically, generally every 2 weeks. We'd call that a sprint, although you can do a 1-week sprint, a 3-week sprint, and so on, but 2 weeks is pretty normal. And in the better companies, if you complete your work items in a sprint, you sort of have some free time. So this can be really good for work-life balance. Low barrier to entry. If you can code, you can basically get a job. It's very skills-driven in this industry. Other industries might have licenses or legal requirements, not so much in coding. Sometimes you'll run into companies that have a hard-line stance on years of experience, but that's an attitude that's going away. And it's very much, if you have the skills, then you're welcome to come code. Low unemployment rate and easy to switch jobs in programming. This is true. So what's the unemployment rate? Unemployment rate in the US is about 4.6 in October 2021. Unemployment rate programming, 2.6. So this is just like, first results in Google, not a rigorous study, but like roughly half the normal unemployment rate, right? So we see these things moving together. High compensation, work-life balance, and better for unemployment. It's not just the money, it's a lot of these things. There's a predictable interview process. Big tech, you'll often do like a phone screening and then a technical interview and then a power day. The power day will often include algorithms and behavioral and systems design. It's really quite normalized, it's quite regular. And outside of big tech, it's still quite structured. So unstructured interviews are a thing, but there's 2 points to make about that. One is that unstructured interviews contain bias, which is often looked down upon, but an astute applicant can leverage that bias for their own benefit. And then two is that unstructured interviews just aren't that common. So in the tech industry, structured interviews are extremely common, and like what kind of a structured interview is very well defined in big tech. In tier 2 companies, they may not follow that particular approach with behavioral systems design and algorithms. Frankly, tier 2 companies rarely use algorithms. Another approach that's really common is like a project-based interview. But there's like a few groups that they kind of fall in, and so they're relatively easy to prepare for. So that's another thing that's attractive about it. It's if you prepare correctly, you can get to a job. It's pretty straightforward. Low expected future unemployment rate. It's a future-proof career. So this is a distinct point, but it's related. Not only is the unemployment rate low today, if you do a trend analysis over time, it looks like it's going to continue to be low. And if you think about the way technology and society is changing going forward, that jeopardizes some industries, right? Blue-collar jobs, agriculture, mining, fishing. Maybe the energy sector is changing so that like oil jobs might be in jeopardy. One thing that's not in jeopardy is programming. This is going to be needed in the future. And there's lots of variety. So the tech industry is not a vertical. Like you have like health and then tech and then like, what are the other industries? I don't know, sports or hospitality. These are sort of verticals, but really tech goes across because you can use tech within athletics. You can use tech within hospitality. You can use tech within, what was the other one I said? I don't know, energy or restaurants and so forth. Technology is used across the board. It's a horizontal industry. And so you can actually kind of like, it's related to whatever you like, really. You can learn programming and then apply it to art or music or whatever interests you, travel. So there's lots of variety. From an industry perspective, there's also lots of variety in the job families. So programming is really broad. You can do things that are really interactive with users where I could be actually drawing the website and I might make demos and like show it to users and get user feedback, and doing graphical interfaces or even physical devices, Internet of Things, like Alexa, where you're like talking to Alexa, or like a robot, you're like talking to the vacuum robot. These are all things that interface directly with an end user. So if you're like kind of a people person, there's still a place in programming for you. And if you're an artsy person, there's still a place in programming for you. On the other end of the spectrum, if you are really introverted, that you'll totally also fit in to programming. And if you're not really an artist, you don't really like music or like digital art, like drawing, you're more of like a logical person maybe, and you kind of like math and things like that. There are a lot of roles for you that don't involve rendering a screen or user feedback. You can do things like back-end development or DevOps or infrastructure and architecture. These are like critical functions that don't really involve interfacing with an end user. So that touches on the variety. That touches on 7 variety, but it also links into 8. It's good for introverts and extroverts. So I guess I knocked out 2 birds with one stone. 9, you can work remotely. This is becoming more and more a necessity for society overall in a post-pandemic world. But in programming, it's a really natural fit. And you can travel. It facilitates travel, which can be good for just having fun, just going to the mountains or going to the beach. But also it allows the developer to maximize their cost of living. So your salary is a nominal amount that you're being paid. Say you take home some salary in New York. But that salary will buy you like a large range of goods and services depending on where you spend it. The real value of that nominal amount varies greatly depending on where you spend it. Because we can work remotely, we can like leverage that to our advantage, basically. And number 10 is that programming promotes creativity. So programming, we're interested in automating things. Once you've automated something, like you can't really keep working on it. It's kind of taken care of. So we're like actively seeking out problems all the time. Not problems in the sense of like making trouble, but problems in the sense of like interesting things to do. So it is an intellectually stimulating field. Sometimes you'll be presented with a problem and no one knows the answer. So there are some jobs where, let's say a cashier at a grocery store, you're doing the same thing every day, roughly. In programming, that doesn't need to be the case at all. You can find some kinds of programming jobs that are fairly repetitious, like if that's your inclination. But a lot of programming is not that. In fact, I think even the average programming job is not that. The average programming job is continuously changing. And that does bother some people. It could be changing at too rapid a rate, right? And it becomes hard to keep up. But it certainly promotes creativity. Let's see what some of the commenters are saying. Web Dev Nexus says, indeed, the greatest Don X says, remote work is a threat to programming. Anything that can be done completely outsourced. Anything that can be completely done remotely can be outsourced. Yeah, that doesn't make it a threat to programming. Outsourced equals lower quality. No, that's not necessarily true. Outsourced equals safety risk. All right, well, interesting convo in the chat. But I would say that programming is already an international field. It's already facing international competition. International competition doesn't reduce quality, it improves quality. It can improve quality and lower price at the same time. That's one of the things that's very interesting about technology to begin with. And these are, yeah, we have 19. Okay, so let's keep going. Technology is included in every industry. I think we already talked about that. Programming now supports many career choices later. Yeah, maybe you don't want to be a programmer. Obviously, programming leads to manager, but programming can also lead into design. In the gaming industry, you could get a foot in the door as a programmer and later become like a designer, like a visual designer, but then also like a game designer, like actually coming up with game concepts. You can get into sales through programming, like once you design ads, then becoming like a digital marketer is a smooth transition if that interests you. Immediate feedback. This is particularly the case with web development. In some industries, let's say in real estate development, you can be working on the same project for years before you ever break dirt, right? Or in law, you can be working on a single legal case, probably not for years, but maybe for months, before you find out like whether you did a good job, right? Because it's sort of a pass-fail thing. In programming, you're getting feedback like throughout the day, every day. So it's very engaging. Incredibly amount of custom tools. That should definitely say incredible amount of custom tools. Let's fix that right now. So for any job, so there it is, incredible amount of custom tools. So for any job family, even if it's not tech, like let's take the cashier at a grocery store. There are going to be digital tools that can help them do their job better. So the cashier might have like their cool screen in front of them, helps them look up the codes for fruits and vegetables, let's say. The codes for fruits and vegetables, let's say. A nanny, might have something to monitor the kids, or maybe just a parent. So all these, like we've talked about, how basically every industry and every job family can benefit from increases to technology. But developers can also reflect that skill back onto themselves, and they do so to a huge degree. I think this is even enhanced because, like, as developers, we are the consumer, so who can understand what we want better than we do? And so because we can have such a high level of conviction about exactly what needs to change, and we're also enabled and empowered to make that change, we just do it often. And so the result is that there are tons of tools that help us do our job in technology as well. And you really, really see this at the big tech companies. Like I'm currently working at Amazon, and just like every aspect of our software development lifecycle involves custom tools that they've developed to do things the Amazon way very quickly and easily. Ensure a high level of quality, ensure if something breaks, it's cleaned up properly, and that there's not like, you know, um, just like expensive infrastructure that's unaccounted for and things like that. And it can help you do almost anything. So just like we talked about, developers have all this custom tooling for their like jobs. It's also a skill that you can take to your own personal life. Like I made my own website, for example. Tons and tons of developers will start a side hustle where they like build some technology product. They might use it themselves. They might give it away for free, contribute to open source, or they might sell it. So it's a skill that you can use in your home life. You can leverage a degree from any field. So only about half of American programmers have a computer science degree. Of the other half, about half of them have some other degree. Really about about 60% of that second half, which would be 30% of the whole, have some other degree in some other field, and then the remaining 20% have like no degree. So you can actually do this with no degree at all. And if you're not into writing code, there's still a place in tech for you. So testers, designers, Scrum Master is sort of like a people person role. It's like a sort of a supervisory managerial role. It's really focused around organization and prioritization of tasks. So like if you have a planning mindset, and if you're also a people person, Scrum Master might be a great fit for you. Business analyst and many more. Programming supports a digital nomad lifestyle. So we talked about this already. We said can work remotely. You can actually like work remotely continuously, including like outside of the country. And so this would be related to a digital nomad lifestyle. And then really just driving the point home, I think there's a bit of overlap here, but not only can you work remotely, it's increasingly becoming normal. Let me show you a chart. Percent. Simon, I see your question. Hang with me one moment and I'll get to your question. Let's see if I can find this chart. Nope, I'm not seeing it. That's unfortunate. Anyway, basically, if you look at a chart over time of the number of the percent of remote jobs over time, it's just really exploded recently. And I wanted to double check whether it's gone over 50%. I guess this information is useful, although this is just a 2020, from 2020 to 2021, and I was hoping for a longer term view because it makes the change really apparent. Yeah, so it looks like at one point throughout the pandemic, work from home exclusively was more than half. That seems to be dropping now. Then again, these are not specifically for tech, so I'm not sure that's the most relevant chart. All right. So let's take a look. Question from Simon. Is it Simon or Simone? I'm actually not sure. Caden says, hey John, working remotely is a big part of why I'm pursuing a career in software development. Awesome, good job. How's it going, Caden? All right, so Simon or Simone, I don't know if there's a way you can communicate by text the right way to say your name, but let me know if there is. Also, cool last name. I have a Next.js site that needs authentication. How should I implement the JWT I create from user history in the best way? Just add it as a cookie on the client side or something else. I'm at a loss. So request headers is the way that I would do this. So Next.js, there's Next authentication. Highly recommend this. Yeah, recommend Next Auth. This is what goes really well with Next.js. They do allow you to configure it like different ways, but the default configuration I think uses a request header, which I think is great. I've contributed to Next Iron Session, which I think is now just called Iron Session. Yeah, now it's just called Iron Session. So Iron Session is another way to do a JWT. What is the best option, security, etc.? The JWT does not have any sensitive data. Yeah, then you can just do a plain JWT. If you want it to be really secure, you can do a JWE. That is an encrypted JSON Web Token. And you can also do a signed token, which is a different thing, but it's also like, I don't know if it's technically salted. Oh, great. Block user on YouTube. Bye. Some ridiculous chat messages. And they can still chat even though I blocked them. Awkward. I don't know how to deal with that. So yeah, and Josh Hendricks is giving some good advice. Definitely need a secret key for sure. You're going to need that. If you do use either Iron Session or Next Auth, they're going to ask you to configure a secret key too. And Kaden asks, do you recommend Udemy? If so, any specific course or instructor? So no, I do not recommend Udemy. I recommend Codecademy. And I do recommend a specific course that is the front-end path. If you're specifically interested in data science, this is probably not the best for you. If you're specifically interested in developing games, this is probably not the best for you. For anything else, highly recommend this. Cool. So we've talked about why you want to learn programming. Let's talk about why you want to learn React. Python tutorials and docs are often outdated. This is probably becoming less of a problem, but Python 2 documentation is still all over Stack Overflow. And earlier this year, Google's like official tutorial was still in Python 2. Which is a huge problem because like no one uses Python 2 anymore, so it's kind of confusing. React and JavaScript are full stack technologies. So let's say that you do learn Python. You're going to qualify for back-end developer roles. You're not going to qualify for the full range of roles that are out there. If you learn React or JavaScript, you will be in a full stack position. You can write web applications, you can write the front end and the back end. Hey, all right, cool. Caden says, I will check out Code Academy. It's all one word, Code Academy, but good to know you're going to check it out. So if you learn React and JavaScript, then you will be qualified for front-end roles, back-end roles, and full stack roles. In addition, React can be used to create mobile applications and desktop applications, mobile through React Native, desktop through Electron. Yeah, and then so Python is mainly used for writing servers and also for data analysis. So again, if you're specifically interested in data analysis, I do recommend Python for that specific use case. I don't think most people are going to want to niche themselves into that career path. And then the mental model for web development is really familiar and easy. Even if you're a non-technical person, you still probably know what a good website looks like. If you're a non-technical person, do you know what gradient descent is? If you're a non-technical person, do you know how to fine-tune like a multilinear a multilinear logarithmic like search algorithm? Like probably, I actually think if you're non-technical and you get into data science, that could be dangerous because you might produce results that people accept and people act upon, and they're not able to explain, and you're not able to properly interpret those models, and that becomes quite dangerous actually. What do you think of Angular? I think it's really good. I think it's my second favorite JavaScript framework. I recommend React ahead of Angular, but no, actually, we're about to talk about that, Caden. So I hate to give it away ahead of time, but I would say that if you already know React, then Angular is a really great second framework to learn. So yeah, and it's a good option. I recommend React more, but it's a good option. Okay. Mental model for web development is already familiar to most people. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are not beginner friendly. May be dangerous when used by developers that don't understand statistics. Yep. Why learn React instead of Angular? Job availability is a key reason. Let's take a quick look at this TikTok.
If your goal is to maximize your employment rate as a web developer, you should learn React, not Angular. Angular, about 24,000 results today, React about 35. And this is for AngularJS and Angular 2 Plus combined. So if you learn modern Angular, thousands less. If your goal...
So 24 versus 35. And as I said in the TikTok, that's including old Angular. Same is true for Svelte, Flutter, Vue, and many others. So there's a lot of great technology out there, y'all. But like, you can learn all that later. Like, why not start with the one that's going to land you the job? Great. Stack Overflow surveys. These are really cool. So 29, 20, 21. I'll show you a cool trick. You can open up one of these and manipulate the URL. So you can change the 2021 to say 2018. And so there's even other years that I don't mention here. But these are the ones that I noticed I can make this statement for. That JavaScript is the most popular programming language among developers. React is the most popular and most loved. So it's not just like you have to learn React, ew, this like terrible thing that I have to learn. It's like people actually love using it. And these two technologies, JavaScript and React, will prepare you to learn TypeScript, which is almost universally loved by developers. It's fairly common to complain about JavaScript, but very few people complain about TypeScript. And JavaScript is a prerequisite for TypeScript. So if you learn JavaScript and you decide that it's not your favorite, that's okay. I would say just finish up learning it and then move on. And one of the places that you'll be able to move on is TypeScript. And frankly, you can move from JavaScript to Python, from JavaScript to C, from JavaScript to pretty much anywhere. It's a general purpose language, so it'll prepare you for object-oriented programming and also for functional programming. Right, so learning React helps you grow. It can help you learn JavaScript or TypeScript. It's multi-paradigm. React, JS, and TS are cross-platform, so this is really useful too. So what if you want to learn Swift, or if you want to learn iOS phone development with Swift, or Android development with Java or Kotlin? JavaScript and TypeScript will actually help prepare you for those. It seems really far away, but you can go JavaScript, React, React Native, and now you're building phone apps, right? Let's see, we got a question here. 24 versus 35, but what about the amount of people applying to them? I don't have numbers on that. If you know where to get those numbers, let me know. Is HTML Free Code Camp a good place to start? I'm at 50% right now. Sure, it's a good place to start. You cannot get a job with HTML, but it's a necessary component of web developer job. The thing with Codecademy is that you lose access if you don't pay the fee. I don't really like that. So you don't lose access. You only lose access to the pro content. And yeah, I understand if you don't like that. So Free Code Camp is good if you're tight on money, but the quality of the content on Free Code Camp is just not as good as Codecademy. So for specific example, Free Codecademy is still teaching class-based React components, which are outdated compared to functional technologies that you will learn with Codecademy. And Codecademy will also teach you Redux. If you like, I also do personal mentoring. It's not free, but I do deferred payment options. So depending on your financial situation, maybe that would work. So we covered that developers love TypeScript, and JavaScript and React will help you get there. By the way, I don't know if I communicated this clearly. React components can be written in TypeScript. So you're going to learn JavaScript so that you can then learn React. Once you know React, you can move immediately to TypeScript, and you don't need to use JavaScript anymore if you don't want to. Most people don't intend to work in data science. Python is associated with a niche in that world. Websites and mobile apps involve a familiar mental model. Great. I'm going to renumber these quickly. I don't really have a concern about the docs being outdated these days. That's not really an important concern. Yeah, and I used to do this bit on like, it's more beginner friendly than C++. It seems strange to me that anyone needs to argue this, but I guess it's worth mentioning. JavaScript and Python are considered to be the two general purpose, multi-paradigm, beginner friendly languages. JavaScript and Python. Those are the two real competitors. There's a ton of other programming languages, such as C++, which are not really considered valid competitors at all. I'm not going to speak to all of them, but I'll speak to one example. Let's start with this TikTok link.
4 reasons most people want to learn React, not C++. One, C++ is low level. That makes you deal with difficult concepts like memory management. React is high level, and it's also multi-use. So you can do a lot of stuff with it, websites, mobile games, and so on. 2, C++ is most commonly used in the gaming industry, which among programming circles is known for poor work-life balance and low maximum salary even late into your career. Building on the point about salary, $92K out of the gate for React, and $90K for C++. This is not late in your career, this is out of the gate. So they're comparable, but one is more work for less money. Before you get paid, you gotta get a job, 66,000 jobs available for C++, twice that many for React developers. By the time you know React, you also know JavaScript, so you're gonna be able to tap multiple job opportunities. Follow my channel and I'll give you a list of the many job titles that are available to you if you do know React. Bonus reason number 5 from Stack Overflow survey link in the description, more purple than blue means even experienced developers dread C++.
Yeah, so C++ is considered not enjoyable to work with, even by expert developers. It's a difficult programming language. You have to deal with low-level concepts like memory management that are totally taken care of for you in a high-level language like JavaScript or Python. So those are some of the reasons that JavaScript and Python are considered more beginner friendly. The Smiling Michael says, where can I see the file you are showing right now? Great question. So this is open source on my GitHub. Yeah, if you can go to GitHub and search my last name, Vandeveer, this is called Latterly-Slides. And so the curriculum is open source, but the course itself is latterly.io. And you can sign up for free right now. It won't be free forever, but you can sign up for free right now. And there's a Discord as well. So social networking for the win, right? What do you think about learning SQL? I've heard it's realistic to land a job at 4 months. I don't know about landing a job in 4 months. Let me say it like this. I'm sus that you can just get a job off SQL in 4 months. I'm sus on that, honestly. However, as a supplementary skill, not as your primary skill, but as a supplementary skill, it's really great. In fact, I don't think you can be considered a mid-level backend developer unless you know SQL. Maybe you can get by as a junior, but I don't think you're going to get by as a mid-level. However, SQL is obviously a database language, so I suggest people focus on the front end first and then grow into the back end later. So I would suggest learning SQL after you know React. In terms of what technologies are you prioritizing, I would prioritize React before SQL. That being said, SQL never hurts. It's a great technology. Like, I use SQL all the time. I just wouldn't put that as your first or only skill set. Oh, I sort of thought this stuff was all commented, huh? What is this? Okay. I think this is like a broken slide, actually. Why React? More beginner friendly than C++. Ken says, I'm still pretty young with no college degree, so I'm just trying to get in the door at the moment. Sounds good to me. I would still say do React, though. Software development being a year plus? No, that's not true. That's not true. You can get a job a lot faster than that. The front-end path Codecademy is only in the pro version, right? That's correct. That is correct. So I suggest Codecademy Pro. If it's too much money, I would say go to Free Code Camp. I don't like Codecademy's free stuff these days. Cool. I think this is better put. So there is only one paid version of Codecademy. No, there's free stuff on Codecademy, and then there's if you do pay, there's like multiple programs that you can do. I just don't recommend them all. I recommend the front end path specifically. Are there any real projects I can do in the course that I can add to my CV later on? Not really. The Codecademy projects are great for practice. They're not great for your resume. I By the way, John, this markdown slide generator is awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Is it Reveal.js? Basically, yes. Yeah, it's built with Reveal.js. So you don't think I need to know full stack? I do recommend that you learn full stack. I just don't recommend that you wait that long to start applying to jobs. This is an important nuance. So this is talking about when you start applying for jobs. I say you learn front end, start applying for jobs, and while you are interviewing and while you are applying, continue learning back end at that time. So it's not that I think full stack is bad. Full stack is great. It's a huge achievement, and it will increase your job opportunities compared to front end only. However, I don't want you blocking yourself from applying to jobs for another 3 or 4 months. That's the reason that I say learn React, start applying to jobs, and while you're applying to jobs, continue upskilling into the full stack. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to turn off this light behind me, which I think is giving a bit of glare. Oh, cool. I wasn't gone for too long. Hey, I hope y'all are getting some value out of this. If you are, double tap the screen, give it a like. That's how TikTok knows to share it with other people. You can also follow me on YouTube or Twitch and get a better view of the screen. I try to use this wide angle lens on TikTok, but there's only so much it can do. The phone camera is just not that big. Caden says to land a job at least. Yeah, so as I said, I agree knowing full stack will increase your odds of getting a job, but I wouldn't wait that long. I wouldn't wait that long to start applying. How long until your course is done? It is $300. No, it's not. It's currently free, and then when I start charging, it's going to start at $5 a month. The $300 thing is for one-on-one personal tutoring, and it starts at $300. It can go up a lot more than that. $300 is like a meeting a week. Hey, Caden, let me know in the chat, did you already sign up for Latterly? If you already signed up, I can send you some more content that's in Latterly. But if you signed up, check out the Discord, because I'm adding videos gradually, and I send them to the Discord first. The Smiling Michael says, alongside the Codecademy front-end path, what sort of projects should I be doing? Oh, that's a really, really good question. $5 is no mentorship, correct? Yes, that is correct. It's no mentorship. I have not signed up, but I can. Cool. Hope to see you there. So it will be $5. Currently, it's free, and it's going to be free for the next several months. But yeah, it'll eventually be $5. So the projects that you should work on, let me show you one. This is a Linktree-like portfolio site, and this is available for you to steal. Please, please, please steal this template. So this is called Basic Next.js Portfolio. Go to GitHub. And it's Basic Next.js Portfolio. You see the green button, use this template. Click that one. And it will make you, and you'll be able to deploy your site for free. Don't let anyone tell you that you need to pay for a portfolio. So you see here, I have my portfolio site. That's one project. I have links to my GitHub and my LinkedIn. You need both of these. And then you can see I have a blog. So the Smiling Michael, that's the second thing I recommend every new developer make a blog. First of all, you'll be able to code a bit, but second of all, you will become like a content creator, and you'll be able to give back to the community. And that's a really great way to communicate a story that's personal to you at interview time. So at interview time, you don't want to sound like everybody else. You don't want to be a cookie cutter person. So you will have things that are unique to your experience documented in your blog. So it is kind of ironic though, right? Because it's like everyone has a blog, but they all say different things. So it's actually a really nice kind of yin yang balance. And then I do this thing. This is called vanilla flat white. Here, let me show you. I want to show off my turkey real quick. That sound effect is from my son. But anyway, this is just like a goofy project by itself. So you can do one of those. I do think you need something here. So yeah, if you have a blog and a portfolio and then something that's kind of like a special project to you, I think that's good enough. I think that's good enough. You can have 3 good ones. All right, cool. So let's get back to the slides. Yeah, and let me step through the C++ thing again. So why React? That's interesting. I'm interested in e-commerce as well. How do you think I combine the two? Link a store there as well. Sure, link a store. That's fine. Bass fishing. Yep, that works. Can the blog be about anything? It can. I think you should have some blog articles about your journey of learning to code. So I think you should share some of your experience of learning to code and things that you have learned that are technical in nature. I don't think it has to just be that though. So mine is certainly not just that. I talk about Patreon and Latterly and cryptocurrencies, and I also have like philosophy, and I talk about Protestantism a little bit. So that's kind of all over the map, right? But then again, I'm like an established programmer. Someone who is more junior who made a blog like this, her name is Audrey. Let's see if I can find her. I think her stuff is mostly programming, but then I think she did like one on baking, which is like a personal hobby of hers. It is good to show like personal hobbies a little bit, you know? I think this is, okay, baking game, blog. Yeah, never mind. She's just got these 2 blog articles. One is talking about learning GitHub, and one is talking about learning Node unit testing with Mocha and TypeScript. How long do you think the front end path will take, assuming 2 hours per day of coding? Oh, I have no idea. I don't know. I haven't counted up the hours. If you find out, let me know. I think maybe like in the 3 or 4 month range. I'm not really sure. Okay, so back to the slides. Why React? We talked about why not Python, but what about C++? And frankly, Python and, oh no, this is written wrong. Python and JavaScript. So we talked about why we like React more than Python, but what about C++? And so C++ is a great example of a low-level language. So Python and JavaScript are generally considered to be the 2 beginner-friendly languages because they're multi-paradigm and high-level. C++ and many other languages, sort of like all the other languages, are not considered beginner-friendly. So I'm going to talk specifically about C++ here, but it's really just an example of some of the reasons that you want to avoid languages that are not JavaScript or Python. So with JavaScript, we don't have to manually manage memory. With C++, you do. React can be gradually learned, implemented, and adopted. So I can learn CSS, I can learn HTML, I can learn JavaScript, and then I can learn React. So I can learn like bit by bit. And I can make real things along the way. So I can just have an HTML and CSS web page. You can technically have just an HTML web page. It's just going to be really ugly. But you can do HTML and CSS. And then JavaScript is kind of optional, although you can add it, then you can add React. With C++, you can't make anything useful until you know C++. And knowing C++ involves more parts and heavier setup compared to learning React. So you're going to have to like install C++ development tools on your computer and like configure them. And you're going to have to do something called compiling, which is where your computer takes human readable code and turns it into machine readable code. So you have to do that with a compile step. Things can break, and it's really hard to troubleshoot for a beginner, to troubleshoot compiler issues. You don't have to worry about any of that when you're dealing with JavaScript. C++ is also associated with poor work-life balance. So C++ is really difficult. Even experienced C++ developers usually say that they don't enjoy their work, which is pretty depressing, right? And it's also associated with the games industry, which has like, it's known for having like a particularly toxic culture and overworking people and underpaying them. Not just at the start, but like even late into their career. All right, great. And then why would you be interested in a coaching program? So you're able to leverage your mentor's social network is a big piece here. I'm a self-taught developer. I used Codecademy before they had a pro, so it was free, but it was like good. But one of the things that I missed out on was a social network. So for some of my students, I can like, yeah, I guess I want to be careful how I say that. But basically I have recruiters that hit me up all the time, and it's easy for me to redirect them to other people. And so I can get people a job like fairly quickly. How do you identify a quality coach? One is a bulk discount on hours. If you don't see that, then the coach has an incentive to like take a long time, like take a large volume of hours. If there's a bulk discount, then like the more hours, the less they're making on an hourly rate. And so they have an incentive to like get you competent quick, basically. A job guarantee is a big deal. This is true whether it's a coach or a boot camp. A job guarantee is a really big green light. And are they where you want to be? So like if there's a person who's like, let's take it out of programming, and I've seen this on like content creators. Someone says like, hey, I'm a content creation guru, and if you do this, you're gonna blow up and have a ton of followers and a ton of likes and a ton of views. But they don't have any followers. That's kind of like a red flag, isn't it? And that's related to number 4 there. Are they asking you to do something they've never done? How do mentors add value? They enhance your social network. We talked about that. They give you referrals and references. So one of the things that can be a real bottleneck for a new developer trying to land a job is how do they get a reference or a recommendation when they're applying? A lot of jobs will require a couple of recommendations, and they might not, accept teacher recommendations. They might not accept familial recommendations. So if you're a junior and you're like, I've actually never had a job before, it's really hard to get recommendations, but mentors can help you out with that. Practice interviews is really important. And then the ability to tailor the timeline. So coding boot camps are cool in a bunch of ways, but one of the problems that they have is they do this like one size fits all kind of thing. And I hear this all the time. In fact, it's how I get students sometimes, is they'll say the coding boot camp is going too fast for me. And so then I'm sort of there to supplement and fill in the cracks. But the reverse is also true. Sometimes people will say, wow, there's this 8-week coding boot camp, and then there's a 32-week coding boot camp. The 8-week is too intense, so I'm going to pick 32. And then what they find out is that they're sitting there and they're like bored, and they're like, man, now I realize this is going to, like 32 weeks, I didn't realize that's 8 months. I didn't do the math. And so I'm committing 8 months to learn, and then there's a job search on top of that. So this could be like a year plus, and I'm like bored, dude. Like I want to get in the job field. These are areas where a mentor or a coach can help you. They can speed up, slow down, fill in the cracks. And a good coach is going to also currently be an expert in their field, so you don't have to worry about like the free code camp problem where the curriculum is kind of dated. How to identify a high prestige bootcamp. So I've written an academic paper on this topic. Here's the 2-point summary. One is use coursereport.com and look for a bootcamp with a rating of 4.25 or greater and 400 or more reviews. You need both of those. They're both really important criteria. App Academy and General Assembly are two really good ones I recommend. Wagon is awesome, but it's not in the United States. More things to consider. Yep, the placement rate, job guarantee, price is really important there, right? So I do recommend App Academy and General Assembly for like a lot of people, but compared to like Codecademy or compared to a mentor, the price can be really high, basically. So that's going to reduce your return on investment. If you're ex-military, the GI Bill benefit is accepted by some coding bootcamps, which is really cool. And then you really need to pay attention to the curriculum of whatever bootcamp that you attend. So for veterans, number 7 there, V School, you can go to that bootcamp completely free if you're a veteran. All right, cool. So this is like, this is the overview of the master plan, right? So one of the last steps in the overview of the master plan. Yeah. So this is the master plan. This is the overview of like the whole course. One of the last elements in this overview is an overview of the job search. So let's check out this TikTok.
Tasha, thanks for the question. You're minimally qualified for a web developer role when you know substantial HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Demonstrate skill using LinkedIn skill assessments and Pluralsight Skill IQ. You'll be far more competitive with 2 or more React projects on your GitHub. Get a recruiter in your corner.
So that's an overview of the job search. You're going to want to do skill assessments to prove that you know what you think you know. Clean up your resume, blast it out. There are follow-up techniques after you blast out the resume. Also, how do you blast it out? And like, what tools do you use that kind of enable you to scale your application speed? And then recruiters can help in having a great portfolio. That's basically all you need, in addition to actually practicing interviews and just doing well in the interview after you land one. So here are some useful external resources. So here are some useful external resources. I'm not going to go through them, but feel free to check them out. Number 6 there is pretty cool. So you can practice coding on your iPhone. If you're like chilling in bed, you don't want to get out and go to the computer, you can still code. Okay, and I think that does it. So this is a link to the trial by fire. That is a, you can click that link and view it. That's a separate kind of module. It's about 45 minutes long. And that gives you a high-level overview. And actually, no, that gives you a low level. It's not high level. We get into the technical details, although it's very quick. It's kind of a scan through HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in about 45 minutes. Is the Reveal.js implementation your own? No, not really. Let's see. Here's the index file. Like I wrote this index file, and that's pretty much it. The main thing I've done here is I've written the markdown content. This is very much just kind of like pretty basic Reveal.js stuff. The JavaScript folder and the plugin folder and the test folder, so those 3 folders, and the CSS folder for that matter, actually all 1, 2, 3, all 4 of those folders, I just lifted and shifted from the Reveal.js repository. Cool, and that does it. Basic technical skills is a different module. So I hope you'll join for that. And thanks for attending. And yeah, thanks for being here. Any other questions before we kind of hang up? All right, thanks for joining. And big shout out to Josh, who I can see was really helpful in the chat. Thanks, Josh. Bye, y'all.